I'm Bob Briggia. With me is Henry Cordes, Staff Sergeant, veteran with the U.S. Marines, and once a Marine, Henry, always a Marine.
I'm born in Rapid City, and I graduated in 1950. That was the year the Korean War started. And of course, right out of high school, I was primed to either be drafted or enlist. And of course, I probably heard advertisement about joining the Marine Corps, and I didn't want to be drafted, so I did. I joined the Marine Corps. So in March of 1951, I was headed to boot camp in San Diego. They were really increasing the Marines, and they were getting people drafted. They were even drafting people into the Marine Corps. The boot camp wasn't as long as it is today. So they had us out there. In fact, I got home on boot leave the 2nd of June, from March 26th to...
Less than 3 months.
Yes. They give you all kinds of things in boot camp that you hear about and know about, and so it was kind of normal. I always remember the first haircut,
Everything.
Yeah. And those with long hair, they'd go right down the middle. When I got out of boot camp, they signed me to the tank battalion. And they had given me a MOS of motor transport. But when I got there, they didn't have any openings in motor transport. But they seen on my history there that I had taken typing in high school. My GCT test was above normal. So they latched on me to come in and temporarily do some typing before the opening came up in motor transports. And I did. And of course, from just learning typing in high school, I really learned how to type in. They didn't have copying machines, and you typed stencils and all on a manual typewriter. You really had to push those old keys, and I even typed court martials, legal size page, and had to have 7 carbon copies with no error, So that's the way it was all the way through. I was in the administrative field, but we always continually had to do any of the training. I wrote a letter requesting to go to Korea, and they sent me there.
Of course, yeah.
I was on the way real quickly.
That wasn't the norm, was it? Writing
No.
a letter to be shipped over to the front lines?
Probably not. But I went over on a troop ship,
Okay.
which is one of the Liberty ships, and it took us 16 days to go across the Pacific, and with some stops in Japan before we got to Incheon, Korea. I don't know if anyone realized life on a troop ship. The Liberty ship would hold 5,000 Marines going to Korea. And of course you had to have all administrative stuff along with you, and being a staff sergeant, instead of staying in a compartment with I don't know how many, bunks would be 5 high. So I took the opportunity to work in the administrative field down in a compartment in the hold there. And I got to tell you, we ran into a 3-day storm in the Pacific, in the middle of the Pacific. And down in this compartment, we had desks, and the chairs were kind of tied down. They didn't slide much. The desks were fixed. But we had all these locker boxes full of records, personnel records of 5,000 Marines that were on board. And we had to be going through them for a lot. But during that storm, when the ship would rock, all those locker boxes would slide out. And so we'd sit in our chair and kick them away, and then they'd rock back and go. But after I was assigned to the 1st Marine Division Headquarters Battalion, I was assigned to the Casualty Reporting Section. There's a lot of things to take care of under casualty reporting. You had killed in action and have to send letters to the next of kin and track wounded and all. At that time in Korea, there was 9 field hospitals. You've seen that on. Yeah, we would trace any of our personnel through all the system. We had to know where they were all the time. And they also had hospital ships in Incheon Harbor. Incheon Harbor is, the big ships have to be out a mile, and then there's mud flats, and you come in the smaller boats and so on. And then, of course, they'd have hospitals in Japan. And we track them all until they got to Japan, and then they were taken on to the reassigned out of the 1st Marine Division there.
Tune in next week as Staff Sergeant Henry Cordes speaks more on what his duties were during the Korean War.